You are listening to the Taking Back You podcast, hosted by Dani Carter-Iddens. Taking Back You is a witty, authentic, and sometimes sarcastic show for young mamas who are trying to reclaim themselves while fully entrenched in motherhood. Hi, I'm Dani Carter-Iddens, creator of Taking Back You. My vision for Taking Back You was simple. I wanted to create a safe place for mamas to focus on the dreams that have been placed on their hearts, where they could walk alongside other mamas who get and give advice on how to do this mom thing. I want to tell mamas what I wish someone had told me, and to build a community of mothers who aren't afraid to reach for the stars, even while holding their children in their arms. Want to learn more? Visit takingbackyou.com, because at Taking Back You, we know happy moms raise happy kids. Hello. This is your host, Dani Carter-Iddens, and you are listening to the Taking Back You Momcast. So first off, before we get started, I want to welcome you. And then I want to let you know that, yes, you are hearing correctly. I do have a head cold. You're not imagining things. I sound really stuffy. In my head, I kind of sound like Fran Drescher. So if you're thinking, oh, she sounds a little weird today, I do. It's going through my whole house. We have the that last spring cold that's just like hanging on. We all have that, but I'm here because today's topic is so important. I couldn't miss it. So here I am, and today we are going to talk all about working mom guilt. Now, I am a working mom. I was not one of those women that couldn't work. Even before I was a mom, I always worked. I just always had multiple jobs, which I think might be more of a millennial thing than anything. Talking to other millennials, I feel like we all have had multiple jobs because we just had to make ends meet. I remember the first year my husband and I got married, I think we had between the two of us, we had 7 W-2s and 1099s when we were doing our taxes the first time. And that was the norm for us and for most of our friends. So I think it's just always been, at least for my age group, we're just kind of hustlers, because we always just had to be. We all graduated from college or went into college right at the recession. And so we just all had lots, as my mom would say, lots of jobs. We all just had a lot of jobs. And so when, I became a mom, that was I had to kind of stop, and I had to, take some inventory here, because, I enjoyed staying busy too. I'm not going to sit here and say that, I didn't have several jobs or multiple jobs because I didn't enjoy it. I did enjoy staying busy, but I realized that once I became a mom, I wasn't going to have the option to, work multiple jobs and also have the time to spend with my child. So we went back and forth, my husband and I, and he's a school teacher. So if being a school teacher doesn't exactly pay that much. But what we kind of figured out is it was best for our family. And this is where you have to remember, when it comes to working moms and the working mom guilt, is that you have to realize that you are doing what's best for your family. And for our family, we decided that I was going to quit all the other pieces of jobs and just do one part-time job in the evening. So kind of how we worked it out was my husband worked at, he was a school teacher during the day. He came home, and then in the evening, I went off to teach dance. And, we did that for a lot of reasons. One was because daycare was and is super expensive. And I realized that even all the pieces of jobs that I was pulling together, I really would be working them to pay for the daycare. And I just wanted to be home with my child. It was really important for us that I was home with him. And that was, now looking back on it, 5 years later, I'm about to have a kindergartner. And these were, they're the longest years. What do they call it? The longest days, but the shortest years. And, I can't even imagine that, my little guy is going to be gone during most of the day in just a few short months. But, on the front end, back in 2013, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do for, however many hours of the day with this baby? But we decided that I would only work in the evenings. And with that, our income went down. We went from having, a pretty steady income to now I lost basically like a third of my income. And so we started budgeting. We started doing a lot of things that weren't necessarily fun, because we had to cut corners, make ends meet. But that's what was best for our family. But what was also best for our family, we agreed, was that I needed some sort of outlet. And that's why I decided to keep my job teaching dance in the evening because, knowing me, I've always been a person who had a job, and I just didn't think it would be the best choice for me to not have a job at all. Now, some people, that's not the best decision for them, and that's completely fine. I'm just telling you, I can only give you my experience, so I'm just telling you my experience. And I have to tell you that even working, a few hours, a night and a few days a week, I still felt guilty. I did. I felt guilty because, I was missing, we breastfed. And so there was a nursing period in there. I believe it was at like 6 o'clock, a 6 o'clock feeding that had to be a bottle because I was at work. So then that caused a whole nother drama because now I'm pumping. And for you mamas out there who you nursed, you know all about the joys of pumping. So now I was freaking out to make sure I was getting enough calories and enough water to make sure that I could pump enough milk so I could feed my child while I was away. And, it's just very like a lot of drama. I missed a nap time, there was a lot of stuff that I missed that like broke my heart, even though, and this is what I want you to realize, even though I was home all day with him, I was home with him from, 4 until like 4 p.m. every day. And I still was upset for the like 3 hours I was away from him. So, if you, work all day, you work full time, and you feel guilty, I want you to know that even us mamas who work part-time away from the home, we still feel guilty. We do. We feel guilty. There's always something to feel guilty about. So it's, it's just one of those things. And honestly, now that he's older, it's worse because he can do more stuff. Like, when he was a baby, he just was like there. And then maybe when he got a little older, my husband would put him in his swing. It wasn't, blockbuster events weren't happening. But as he got older, I started to miss stuff. I started to miss swim lessons. He learned how to ride his bike at the age of 4 because my child has the stick-to-itiveness beyond any level that I've ever seen. He's one of those people that he cannot not know how to do something. And actually, he reminds me of my grandma, who actually died 4 years ago today. He is very much like her in that if he has something that he doesn't know how to do, you give him, depending on the degree of difficulty, give him at most a week and he'll have it. So, one day I was going to work and he could barely figure out how to ride his tricycle. And like by the end of the week, he was like riding his bicycle with no training wheels. That's how my kid is. And so that upset me because I missed that. Him and Jim, my husband, would have movies and popcorn nights, and I would miss those because I'd be at dance, and by the time I got home from dance, it was bedtime. And because of the nature of dance, sometimes I was gone for entire weekends because we had competitions or conventions or something like that. And so, I felt bad a lot of times because I would miss those things. And I thought, oh man, am I a selfish mom? Am I selfish for still needing to work a little bit? Am I, thoughtless, thankless? I don't know, because I needed to do a little, I needed to have my outlet. But now I'm going to flip this around and I'm going to tell you, those are the thoughts that I had, but I'm going to tell you the hindsight of it, looking back and seeing all the advantages. And these weren't things that I necessarily saw while it was happening, but these are things that I want you to think about when you are, having, the working mom guilt. For our family, when I was gone in those evenings, that was quality time that he got to spend with his dad. Just him, one-on-one. And usually they did they do like man stuff. And they still do. I mean, I still work in the evenings. They do like man stuff. Like they'll build something, or Alex will help my husband build something, or he will they'll ride their bikes, they'll go on nature walks, they'll climb trees, they're doing, like, let's be honest, they're doing things a lot of times that I don't want to do. I'm not a nature person. I have said this 100 times. I'm not a nature person. If you see me out in nature, call the police. I've been kidnapped. But what I realized is that I was feeling guilty because I was leaving my son for like 2 or 3 hours, but that was amazing quality time with his dad. And on the other side, I got to speak to adults, because you guys with littles, babies and littles, that when you're at home, the conversation is not always, witty and fruitful. When you're talking to a baby or a teenager, a baby or a toddler, the conversation, or three-nager, I guess we could say that, a three-nager, the conversation is not always, filled with depth, and let's say it lacks a certain je ne sais quoi. And so I am able to speak to adults 4 to 5 times a week. And that's a wonderful thing. It's a great thing, especially during those baby months. I was hanging on, I'm like, oh my gosh, can I please talk to someone over the age of 6 months? And so, there was a lot of advantages there. And I have friends, and now this wasn't our situation, but I have friends who have, their children in daycare while they work. They both work full time, and they love the chance to, if they have a day off from work, but they don't, but their children are still in daycare, they get so much done that day. So, I mean, there are advantages, and, yes, she does suffer from the guilt too. I can tell you, I can speak for her to say, like, yes, she feels guilty, on those days, but then she also gets a lot done. And then when it's time to pick her kids up from daycare, she's ready to play. She's ready to have a good time because she did all the things, all the boring things before. So, yeah, there are disadvantages and there's advantages to working, part-time, full-time, outside of the home, whatever, even working from home. That's time that you're not, actively engaging with your children. You're doing whatever you do. And so, at that point, you just have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. And sometimes, to be honest, sometimes the choice is made for you. If you just honestly have to work to make ends meet, then the choice is made for you. And, if you have the freedom to make that choice, then you've got to do what's best for your family. And I'm going to posit and say that even if the choice is made for you and you have to work to make ends meet, then you are still doing what's best for your family. And so when you have those choices either way, or you don't have a choice either way, whatever, working mom guilt still sucks. It sucks. And it's there. It's always there, like kind of looming in the back of, our minds when we leave our babies. Or, you might have guilt if you're leaving your children and you're not sad about it. You can also feel guilty about that too. There's a lot of different layers here, folks. But, what I want us to think about when we're dealing with the guilt and the way to kind of push it out is I want you to think about what role you wish to play in your kids' lives. What is your legacy going to be? What are you going to leave your children with, instill in your children so that when you're not around anymore, what qualities do you want them to have? What, perspectives do you want them to have? We're going to explore that right after the break. Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? When I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. Like, how do I record an episode? How do I get my show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the other places people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? The answer to every one of these questions is really simple. Anchor. Anchor is a one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. Best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors too, so you can get paid to podcast. I love Anchor because I was up and running in a couple of hours. You can even record your episodes on the go using their super friendly Anchor app. So, if you've always wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. And we are back. Hello, this is the Taking Back You Momcast. This is Dani Carter-Innens. We are talking today about working mom guilt. And before the break, we kind of talked about all the advantages and disadvantages and why we make the choices that we make. And now we're going to talk about the legacy that we want to leave with our children. Because I think if we can keep that in the back of our minds when we are working or not working or whatever we're doing, then we're really making sure that we are keeping our eye on the prize. And we're realizing that whatever choice we make, it's the best choice for our family. So, like I asked before the break, I want you to think about what are some of the virtues that you think are important for your children to have or to see you having or anything like that. And that's really what needs to go into the entire process of deciding whether or not to work from home or to go work full time or part time or whatever, or be a stay-at-home mom. You have to first decide what you want for your children and what you want for your family, the direction you want your family to go in. For us, well, it was really important that our son saw that we were hard workers. Now I'm gonna be honest with you. All of these are things that your children can see. They're virtues that your children can see, whether or not you work at home, work outside of the home, or whether you're a stay-at-home mom. These are all things that can be seen and learned, from you by your children, no matter what you do. So that's why I'm giving you these, is because they're all kind of things that you want to figure out. Hey, can I do these things if I'm doing, this or that? So that's why I'm giving you this. I want you to think about them, and I want you to think about how you are going about them. So, we wanted our son to see that it was really important to work hard. And that's just something that my husband and we both felt that way. That was one of the things that we kind of came together on when we were dating, is that we were both hard workers. And probably the biggest difference, though, is we're both hard workers, but I am a work hard, play hard person, and my husband is just a work hard, work hard, work hard, work maybe a little less than you did, and then keep working. So, and that's his family. That's just how they are. So we have tried to kind of take both of those together and make, I don't know, maybe like an average of our work hard, because we both have a tendency to zero in on something and work really hard on it. So, but that was something that we wanted our son to know, that, working hard is important. Hard work is important. Now, like I said, that's something that can be taught whether I'm, staying at home or whether I'm working, my husband's working, so you need to see where that fits in, if that's important to you. We wanted him to learn that both men and women were capable of doing jobs, of doing work. I didn't want him to see that, only moms do this, only dads do this. So with me working at home sometimes, and me working outside of the home sometimes, my husband has to make dinner. Well, okay, now he sees that men can make dinner. Men are capable of cooking. And that's important for him. I want him to be that kind of a husband one day that cooks for his family. That's an important thing for us. Now, for some people, what I just said was just the greatest sacrilege of our century. I don't know what to tell you. You don't have to do that with your family. That's completely up to you. But for my family, it's very important that my son knows how to cook, knows how to do laundry, knows how to do all those kinds of things. But then on the flip side, when I'm not home, that's when my husband teaches him things like, like weeding. He learned how to weed. He's going to learn how to mow the lawn. He's going to learn how to do these things, take out the trash, that he needs to know how to do. And they kind of go back to the working hard thing, but they also go back to hey, there's not always roles that people have to play. You can do whatever needs to be done in the house. And since mommy's not home right now, or daddy's not home right now, we're not just going to sit around and wait for them. We're going to do what needs to get done. And men and women are both capable of doing that. I want him to learn commitment. We both are very committed people, my husband and I. When we decide we're going to do something, we stick to it. And we want our son to see that. We want our son to see that there are commitments that you make and that you have to learn how to stay with them. I think one of the biggest trends that I'm seeing now as a dance teacher, I've been teaching dance and working with children in some capacity since I was 17. One of the biggest trends that I'm seeing now is that children are quitting things in the middle of things, before they fulfilled their commitment, at a much higher rate now than they used to. And that's something that my son, he's not allowed to do. He has to follow through. If he says he wants to take underwater basket weaving, then gosh darn it, we're taking it that's what we're doing this year. We're doing underwater basket weaving. If you go to my studio, you know that what underwater basket weaving, that's our big joke. We always, we'll joke and say oh no, this is not dance. This is underwater basket weaving. I don't know where that even came from, why we started saying that one day, but it stuck. It's been like that for 5, 6, 7 years. I don't know why. But, we wanted him to learn how to commit to something. And so when he sees me get up and go to work every day, when he sees my husband get up and go to work every day, he's learning that, hey, you got to follow through on stuff. You can't just be I want to do what I want to do when I want to do it. That was important to us. We wanted him to impact the world and see how we impact the world. Now, my husband and I both work with children. He works with middle schoolers teaching English and social studies. I used to work with high schoolers teaching dance and English, and now I work with middle schoolers through high school seniors teaching dance. And so it might not seem like, we're doing like the greatest work. No, we're not UN ambassadors or anything like that, but we are impacting the world because we are teaching the next generation. And so I want him to see that he holds being a teacher in very high regard, because that's what we do. And so, I don't always feel guilty about going to teach, or my husband doesn't feel guilty about going to teach, because we know that our job is important. We know that what we're doing is important. And maybe, in the grand scheme of things, teaching dance is not the most important thing in the world, but you better believe I'm teaching those young ladies, and sometimes young men too that are in there. I'm teaching those young people things that they're going to need outside of dance. They're learning discipline. They're learning problem-solving skills. They're learning how to deal with criticism. They're learning a lot of things that are important for young people to learn. And so even that, I always say, if they never dance another step after they leave my classroom, I want to know that I've taught them, I've instilled in them. And they're not even my children by birth, but they are my children, because all my students I consider to be my children. I want to know that I've taught them something that they can take out into the world, that they can, change the world. And so, that's important for my son to see. I believe that is. And I want him to see that his father and I are creating something greater than ourselves. When we're children, everything is about us. Whether it's about us or not, everything is about us. And I want him to realize that there is something else going on. This world this is a big world, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to see and a lot to do, and there's a lot of things that are bigger than he can even fathom at this point in his cute little 5-year-old brain. And so, when we made the choice to, work, not work, whatever, that was because we wanted him to realize that, hey, we're part of something that's greater than ourselves. And it can be daunting, but that can also be amazing. It's so amazing to think that we're not, we're not the only thing cooking. That there are so many parts of this, big, great thing that God created that we can be a part of in some way, shape, or form. And we don't have to just stay in our own little circle. We can go outside of our circle. We can go beyond. And that's important for us. And that was important for us when he was a baby, and that's important for us now, and that'll be important for us as he grows older. So I give all of these things to say this. Like I said before, all of those virtues could be taught whether you stay at home, whether you work part-time, whether you work full-time, or whether you work from your home. But they're important things for him to know and to realize and to have instilled in him, whatever I chose to do, whatever my husband chose to do, wherever we chose to be when we were working, or however long we chose to work when we did, or sometimes whether the choice was made for us. So those are kind of the gauge for what I use when the mom guilt kind of creeps in. I can stop and I can say, wait a minute. I feel bad right now. I feel guilty right now. But here's the deal. My son looks at me and he sees a hardworking person. He sees that I can do things that, society might not dictate that I should be able to do. He sees that I'm committing to something, that I'm impacting the world. He sees that I'm creating something bigger than myself. He sees that in my husband as well. And so on those days when I feel really guilty about being a working mom, those are the things that I hold on to. Those are the things that I realize. Those are the things that I know are important. And the good news is that there's no, quote unquote map for motherhood. So whatever we decide is best for our family and our situation is the best. And, that's it. The end. Whatever we decide is best. I'm going to say that again because I want it to get in your soul. I want you to hear me. Is whatever we decide is best for our family and our situation is the best. Whatever you are doing for your family and for your situation is the best. The end. There's no other question. We solved it. We solved the great working mom guilt mystery. You don't need to have it. Guilt doesn't belong in the equation because you are doing the best you can. So let go of the guilt. Let it go. Write down the word guilt on a piece of paper. Write down all the reasons why you feel guilty for working. Crumple it up and throw it away. Guilt does not fit in to this. Mom guilt does not fit in when you are doing what's best for you and for your family and for your situation. You're doing the best you can. And if we're just being honest, that's really all anyone can hope for. I hope you have a great week. I hope you are enjoying this weather. If you are in the Midwest right now, we have had like a streak of just beautiful days. It rained like one day, but even that was like not even, that's not even gonna bother me, that rain. But every morning we're waking up and the sun is shining. And the days are they're getting longer and they're getting warmer and they're just beautiful. And I just, I said to my son today when I woke him up for school, I said, the Lord has just given us so many beautiful days. So please go out and enjoy those days. Go out and enjoy your family. Go do what you got to do and realize that whatever it is best for you. Thank you so much for listening. For more information on this and other episodes of Taking Back You, visit takingbackyou.com. And be sure to subscribe and share with your friends.